All right, Morgan Reagan. Scott Perry was introduced as the Kings' new general manager today. He talked to the media for what, like a half hour or so?
Yeah.
Took a ton of different questions. What was your biggest takeaway from today?
I guess that he's good at talking. Like he knows how to talk to the media. Whether you want to sit there and say, "Oh, he's saying all the right things." I mean, one, you'd hope so, but two, I think delivery and intent behind what you're saying really matters. So I guess ultimately, I enjoyed this press conference, which is a weird thing to say because I know the other day I was like, I don't care what he says. I just got to hear what they're going to do on the court, or like see what they're going to do on the court. And I ultimately still feel that way, but it's better to feel this way after a presser with a new GM than some other shitty way.
Yeah, and I think for me, I did hear the leadership and confidence.
Yeah.
And for someone in a leadership position,
yeah,
that's what you want. And if you look back at the general manager position since Jeff Petrie was let go, you've had Pete D'Alessandro, Vlade Divac, and Monty McNair.
Okay.
Not exactly the most media savvy guys that can go out there and communicate their message, what they're looking for, and say it with confidence. And you're going, okay, but what does that mean, Deuce? Well, you're right. It doesn't mean shit for wins on the floor.
Yeah.
But it is important. And it's not
Part
just
of the
because you're
job.
talking to the media. It's your message getting out to the fans who spend their hard-earned money and their time and resources and dealing with the emotional toll that this team put you through.
Like, gonna need some money for therapy, guys.
Yeah. So, like, having someone that can go up there and, like, have command of a room. It doesn't mean you agree with every little thing he says. It didn't mean that today he went into some, like, deep dive into exactly what he wants to do.
Who he's gonna get.
Who's moving. But, like, that was kind of my first big takeaway.
Okay.
But let's go over some of the things he did talk about. I actually asked him, so why do you take this job at this point of your career?
That's been my life. I've loved taking on challenges, and if you followed my career, a lot of the organizations that I worked with when we first came in, they were struggling or non-playoff teams, whatever you want to call them. But then by the time we left. The organizations were better. I enjoyed that. I enjoy challenges. I don't run from problems, I run to them. And I think that's a necessary quality that you got to have when you come in to build a situation like this. And I embrace it. And I think there's a lot of good people here within the organization. I think there's a lot of good people in this community. I understand a frustrated fan base. I faced that going into New York City, quite frankly, when I got there, and enjoyed every minute of that and being part of that turnaround there. So that's why I'm so confident in it. And again, my experience, my know-how, confidence in it, that we can do it. I've been there, done that. Feel really good about having the chance to do that here.
So he talks about not running from problems, running toward them. Where does he run first here? Huh? You know what I mean? No. And hey, he likes the challenge, and yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I thought about this a long time with the Sacramento job. If you are the GM that comes to town, and let's be fair, we saw that when Monty won Executive of the Year. If you're the GM that can like turn the ship and build the sustainability that we hear from almost everybody who comes through the doors when they first get hired, you will be an absolute god in this
icon,
town.
statue, hero, like name it. Name it.
And guess what? If you don't do it, I mean,
demon, devil. Well, I'm kidding.
You know, you could. No one's gonna like fault. People are gonna like, yeah, but I mean, that was Sacramento. It's a tough place to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so like, what do you have to lose? You go in there, you say it with your chest, you've been around the block, you've worked with a variety of ownerships, and let's be honest about it. He knows what he's walking into. He was here for a few months, 3 months in that offseason before he took the Knicks gig. So he has an idea. I don't think he's walking in blind going, okay, everything's all good.
He's obviously not walking in blind. And I think, when you ultimately look at someone also taking this job in the NBA, there's only so many of them. There's only so many
That's
of these
fair.
jobs too. And, I think that's like, I always hear it from people after like, well, who would want that job? Who would want that job? Anyone wants any of these jobs because there's, again, only 30 of them in the world when it comes to different positions, whether, it could be from broadcasting to GM, front office stuff, to just being even an NBA player, to being on a roster. Obviously, there's more to that. But my whole point being is like, kind of going off of what you're saying, if you could be the one, and of course you're going to believe in yourself, but if you could be the one to build something and turn things around, even when challenges are thrown at you, like that's life. Like that's what, of course you accept it and try and move forward.
And he's got some big challenges, right?
Yeah.
Because of how this team's constructed, the money that's owed to LaVine, Sabonis,
You're in a small market.
DeMar DeRozan, there's a
Challenges.
lot. You don't have a draft pick
You
in
don't.
this draft at this point, unless you get lucky and move up to the top 4. So the next big topic is, okay, you got your GM in place. What about the coach? Doug Christie was the interim head coach after Mike Brown got let go. There's been some reporting from The Athletic that suggests that he's still the front runner, which has some people like, I don't know about that. Like, you have to let the GM hire the coach. Here's what Scott Perry had to say about Doug Christie and the coaching search.
Well, you're looking at a guy who's a veteran of so many coaching searches, I can't even count them right now. But what I can tell you is I've spent time with Doug Christie already. I first met Doug Christie when he was a player at Toronto. So I admired him as a player, his career. I've watched him this year from afar in terms of his ability to have a presence on the court. I think he's made a connection with players. We've had a few conversations up to this point. He was one of the first people I met with yesterday when I got into town. So I've only been here a little longer than 24 hours. With that said, my phone has incessantly rang for interest in this job. So I'm going to have a few more conversations in and around about this job. And hopefully I can come to some sort of resolution within the next week or so in terms of having a decision or announcement to inform everybody.
So next week or so, that could be decided. I feel like it's going to be Doug. And I think the challenge is this. I think there is a portion of the fan base that goes, okay, all the reporting suggests that was, the higher-ups, the ownership that loves Doug and wants him to be in that position. If he gets the job, people are going to go, well, did Scott even want him?
Sure.
I think the way Scott will probably end up looking at it, my guess, just reading how he went about this answer is he's been watching from afar. He saw what he did. And there's some points that you could point to and go, look, younger guy in this league, younger coach in this league. I guess he's not that young anymore. He's in his 50s.
But okay,
you know what I mean?
newer head coach.
He took over a tough situation. I think we can all acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Took over a tough situation. It wasn't an interim job where you're babysitting for the rest of the year. It was like, hey, you got to figure out a way to kind of navigate this. Can you help turn it around? It looked like maybe he was turning around. De'Aaron gets moved. He had to juggle that. Guys in and out of the lineup. And oh, by the way, did not have a coaching staff that was like truly his, meaning the trust wasn't there. There's maybe some guys that were upset about Mike Brown being gone. Those were all the dynamics there. But it's still the challenge of selling that, like, that is my guy.
Yeah. And you say the challenge of selling that. I mean, hopefully it's just that's what he believes.
Oh,
If
absolutely.
That's the, I mean, like,
I hope so too, yeah.
Let's be real here. It's you want to start off on the right foot. And maybe within conversations and like you said, of knowing Doug, it is something that he's like, okay, you know what? I do believe in this. I believe I want to move this way going forward. Giving someone else a chance, I guess a second chance, if you even look at it like that. But I think either way, it's good that they're putting it out there that like, oh, I'm taking calls.
Well, you
I'm
should
listening
be.
to
You
other.
gotta have
well,
these
because that's
conversations.
why. I mean, how many times like have we even talked about it for the GM job?
That's
So
right.
many people are like, wait, just take calls. Like, don't just give it to someone else. At the same time, like that's what they did with this. So
We also don't know, to be fair, we don't know who they talked to or did not talk to about the GM job, right? Because
Right. There
we
was
didn't know they were
reports.
talking about. We know. Here's what we do know.
What?
Monty didn't get let go. The mutual agreement did not take place at the end of the game, the final playing game, and then Vivek picked up the phone, and goes, "Hey Scott, you want this job?"
No.
And they, worked out a deal 12 hours later.
We heard Calvin Booth's name. We heard. I mean, we heard names throughout this, I guess, small, short span of time process. But either way, with the coaching situation, saying that you're taking calls, listening to other people, blah, blah, at the end of the day, if you end up going with Doug, anything with Doug, good or bad, is going to also fall on you as a GM. And I think by this point of his career, Scott Perry understands that.
Yeah. And he said he met with every single one, or at least talked to every single player. I'm sure Doug Christie's name was brought up a lot.
I'm sure.
So there's probably a lot to think about there, but we'll see how that unfolds over the next week. All right. The next thing everyone wants to know. All right, GM, Scott Perry, what's the identity you want for your team that you're putting together?
I'm just learning this roster. Again, I've watched them from afar. There's some talent here. There's an obvious need. I think everybody in this room probably would agree to it, that there's not a true point guard on the roster. Also, as I assess it from afar, I think we need to add more length and athleticism to this group to enhance some of the talent that's here. So that's, from that standpoint, that's kind of what I'm looking at doing right now. And the second part of your question was the identity. Any successful pro sports organization, or any company for that matter, has to have an identity. And that's one thing that I don't see here yet, but that's what I'm all about, is establishing an identity. What does it mean to be a Sacramento Kings player? To play here, we're going to require toughness. We want a defensive orientation. We got to play extremely hard, and we got to play together on the offensive end. Share the game is what I like to say. We got to be professional. We got to be disciplined, and we got to have accountability. And so if you fit that profile, you'll see guys wearing that Kings jersey. If not, then we'll figure out how to get guys in here that do. And a line that you may hear me say, and you may have heard this before, I am looking for volunteers to that, not hostages.
What stood out there for you?
I like that final line too. And it's like, you want people to want it. I mean, he said it. That's in not just in professional sports. That's in large organizations, wherever you work, whatever. Like, you want people to want to win, to want to do their job, to want these things. And that to me is the type of person that he wants. I know he goes on throughout this entire press conference talking a lot about character. I believe that is something that he truly has seen success being around throughout his time within the basketball world. So he knows what he wants when it comes to like the type of human being. But you can want all these things. There's still just so many challenges of, I guess, attaining these things and just making it work out, whether it's with contracts,
and that's the thing,
personalities.
because one of the things he did say, and again, this is me like searching, like trying to filter things out, like, what does he mean by this?
Oh, no.
He said, they need length and athleticism, which I think every Kings fan's like, yes.
What does he mean,
Dear basketball
though?
God, we believe, yes, that's what we need. But he said to enhance the talent that's here. And it's like, I mean, if you have a roster that features Domantas Sabonis,
Yes.
you better have some length and athleticism around him. Otherwise, those weaknesses he does have will be exploited. If you have Zach LaVine, which, let's be honest about his contract situation.
You have Zach LaVine.
You have Zach LaVine,
Yes.
right? Like, you better have pieces around him
to
enhance his ability so his weaknesses are not exploited left and right. You have to cover that up. That's what, putting a team together is.
And I think sometimes what people go to every offseason, and I mean, this would be so nice at times when you're just pissed off at the world and at your entire team. It's like, trade everyone. Why can't you just trade everyone and start over and blow it up and blah, blah. I think it's important when you are in an organization that will face different challenges because of the market that you're in, because of your track record, all these different things. You have to make sure you're being smart with what assets that you do have. And if you do feel like that you could build some sort of winning culture around certain pieces, even if it's just 3 of them, even if it's just 2 of them, like who knows, then it's your job to assess talent elsewhere, to elevate the talent that you have and to just make it work. Easier said than done.
Yeah, exactly. He was also asked about meeting with some of the players in the conversations he's had.
I'm going to be opportunistic and prudent in doing this. I'm learning all the players just like they're getting to learn me. And I'm going to spend a lot of time with a number of them this summer and just make sure that we're equally aligned about where we're headed, because I'm going to be steadfast in my resolve and get into where we need to get. And again, I want to make sure that they're in tune and in line and that they want to be on board with that. So that's what I would tell you right now. There's some good talent here. I've had an excellent reception from all the players thus far. I've talked to every single one of them, and they all seem very positive and ready to go. They like the community here. You know, obviously, I'm sure there was frustration that the season ended the way it did, but I'd be disappointed if they weren't frustrated. That's part of it.
So there he is talking about meeting with each player. One of the players that's been talked about a lot, Zach LaVine.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him in his glimpses in Sacramento. We see the flashes, but then you also see some of the weaknesses as well. Well, Scott Perry was on a podcast in 2023, and this clip started circulating on social media. And here's what he said about Zach LaVine that ended up being a big topic at the press conference today.
No question that Zach LaVine can score the basketball. He has proven that his 9 years in the NBA. I know this is his 10th season. He shot the ball well. He's a career 38% three-point shooter, explosive athlete. He has proven that he can score the basketball. Next thing that I look at is, does he impact winning? Zach LaVine has been to 1 playoff series in 9 years. So he's played a total of 4 playoff basketball games. So now I say to myself, I'm looking at paying 40 this year, 43, 46, and 49 million in subsequent years for a guy who, to this point, has not impacted winning to the level that his money says he should impact. So there's not a real match there, in my opinion. Now, as I look at the teams, and you bring up a good point, Mo, when you start talking about him as a third option, which I think is the best fit.
There he is, talking about Zach LaVine.
It's so interesting to me that that's like so controversial. You know, I think when I first saw it, I definitely felt like, oh no, he feels this way. I've now seen that clip so many times. I'm like, it's a very fair analysis.
Sure, but it doesn't mean it's any less like weird when you take over a team that literally has Zach LaVine.
Yes, and so now that does happen, you know, I totally understand that there's conversations that need to be had, but again, not the worst thing that you could say about a player.
Well, it's interesting at the press conference because Sean Cunningham was about to ask him a question, and I think the initial interaction between Scott Perry and Sean Cunningham, Scott had referenced podcasting, and Sean just saw that opening.
He's like, here I come.
Oh my goodness. It was like a running back just seeing the offensive line just open up a hole, and he's like, I'm going all the way. Although I can't picture Sean Cunningham like going like 50 yards for a touchdown.
No, maybe like a defensive lineman.
Yeah, maybe it's a goal line situation though. Like,
oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, here's that
touchdown,
sequence
Sean,
where he was asked about Zach LaVine and those comments he made on that podcast.
Scott, Sean Cunningham.
Yeah.
Just when you look at, you know, you mentioned people thrilled to have you back and out of the analyst booth. There's obviously, fans have
And the
been,
podcast where I do. Don't forget that.
Oh, I'm not.
Don't forget my podcast people at the Hoop Genius. Exactly, that work.
well, I'm glad you mentioned that one, because there was a clip obviously that might haunt you as you come over here.
I knew
talking
when you
about-
come.
Yeah. Talking about Zach.
Look, anything I say, I'm not worried about it haunting me. But go ahead.
For sure. No,
Exactly.
Just to that point, like, does that create an awkward moment? I mean, obviously you're always such a straight shooter, and I just now hear Zach LaVine is on your roster, and imagine you've had a chance to speak with him.
Absolutely, I've had a chance to speak with Zach. I knew Zach a little bit well before I took this job. When he was a young player at UCLA when he was coming out, I obviously scouted him and watched him a lot. Terrific talent, athletic, nearly a career 40% three-point shooter. And he and I, like I said, we had a good conversation. It's my job now to help put pieces around him and others to enhance his ability to start winning. And that is what you're getting at with the comment that I made, because it was a reflection on him not having won as much. It's nothing personal with me. And the great thing, what I enjoy with my relationship with all players, and that's why so many of them reached out to me, because they know, okay, I might not always agree with him, but he's going to shoot me straight. And they know that I'm going to provide radical candor surrounded by radical love. They know it's coming from a good place.
Hi, Scott. Michelle Dapper with KCRA back here.
Hey,
welcome
Michelle.
back to
How are you?
Sacramento.
Thank you so much.
You mentioned that you have talked to the players, and during the exit interviews with the players, several of them expressed their need, want, concerns with the front office. Just curious if you could share maybe some of the things that you've maybe reassured the players on how you plan to turn this around and move forward.
A number of them obviously are familiar with my journey and my path, so I think that breeds some confidence. But in the conversations, just like we're having here right now, it's very clear what my vision is and what I'm about, what I stand for. The reception has been great from those guys, and I think they're ready to get on board. Players, sometimes a misconception is that players don't want real, true accountability. But they really do. The key is you've got to be consistent with it. It can't be accountability in October, none in November, trying to get it back in December. And so that, again, is going to fall on me, coaching staff, and our entire staff, that how we go about our business on a daily basis, we can talk about a lot of things right now, but we got to live them every single day. And that's ultimately what's going to be the key determinant in terms of our success moving forward.
Sounds like Scott Perry is blunt, will tell people how it is. And I got that vibe a few times throughout this press conference, but more so when he answered and addressed that whole clip talking about Zach LaVine. I like that he didn't just double down. He didn't just shy away from it.
Could you imagine? He's like, I stand by those comments. I don't know that he is a winning player. Like, of course, he's not going to double down.
No, and I guess. Well, I mean, and you say that like because there are so many other personalities out there that would, but
not a GM.
Exactly. Well, and it's nice to see that obviously. He understands things on so many different levels in this position. And I just like that he's communicating with all the players and even being able to have that open conversation with Zach LaVine of like, not only, hey, what we need from you, but what you need from me as a GM and the type of pieces you need here to enhance your talent.
Yeah. And I think he also understands like, it is what it is. Like we're kind of stuck together at this point, even if I didn't view you as a winning player or a piece I wanted to build around, I don't know that many people are lining up to acquire that type of contract. So it's like, it is what it is with that part of it. And that's what's challenging for Scott Perry in this job.
And here's the thing with someone like Zach LaVine too, it's like you are getting paid that type of money. And if you are on a team that is trying to enhance your talent by getting maybe even better players in different ways, different skill sets, whatever. Like, you're making your money. Wouldn't you be fine being that third?
No, and that's the other thing too. Like, obviously Scott Perry did some work for ESPN. He was on that podcast. His job is to give critiques. And going back to his initial critique about LaVine, I don't think there was anything there that he made personal. He wasn't like, this guy's a joke. He was talking about some of the things some of the strengths of his, and then some of the questions he has about him. And I don't think it was unfair.
I know, I agree.
But we also have to acknowledge, like, everyone's got an ego. Everyone's got like, whoa, what did you just say about me? Now you're my boss. Like, do you really believe in me? Like, those things have to be addressed. We'd be ignorant if like LaVine was just like, oh, we're all good with that.
Yeah, he just thinks I'm the third best guy. Yeah.
Maybe LaVine is like, cool, that I'll have to prove you wrong. I can, and maybe use it as motivation, whatever it is. But like, clearly it was something that needed to be asked today. And so good job by Sean asking about that. Shout out to our friends over at Medic Ambulance.
We are thrilled to team up with Medic Ambulance, the trusted name in emergency medical services across Northern California. From life-saving responses to being the team behind the scenes at your favorite events, Medic is there to serve. Medic is the official emergency medical response partner of Sac Republic and Sac State Athletics. Learn more at medicambulance.net.
Also presented today by our friends over at Centivo Vineyards and Winery.
We love being partnered with Centivo Vineyards. I mean, they're family owned. They have fantastic wine, some of the most amazing wine, actually. And you can go to CentivoVineyards.com and grab your own bottles if you need a white for the summer, or maybe at night you just like a nice little cab, whatever it is. Plus, they have a tasting room that is coming up this spring. So make sure to be ready in the Fairfield area to go there. But until then, you can go to CentivoVineyards.com.
The last clip we'll go over, Matt George kind of talked about like, okay, what's the goal? Are you guys going to try to win here? What's the mandate? And then in this clip, Michelle Dapper also asked about working with Vivek Ranadive and autonomy.
Last season, there was a bit of like a planned playoff mandate kind of on the organization and the position that they were in. Has it been expressed to you from Vivek, from ownership, about any kind of expectation of winning right away or giving you the time necessary to fix the shit?
The expectation is to build a sustainable winner and do the things necessary to create an environment that will breed that. And that's the only mandate. And so I'm going to do what's best, what I see is best for that. Obviously, I'm someone who's wired to win. So again, we'll see what unfolds over the next coming months. But I'm going to do my very best to enhance what's here right now and see where it takes us.
Hi, Scott. Michelle again, over here in the back. Just curious.
Oh, okay.
Right here.
All right.
With all this, just how closely are you going to be working with Vivek with all of these decisions? Has he given you full control to say, I'm going to hire the coach, I'm going to add these players to the roster, or do you plan to work with him?
Look, obviously Vivek owns the team, and I've worked with Vivek before, and I enjoy a very healthy and positive relationship with him. But make no mistake, he has empowered me to lead this team and make critical decisions. Now, will I talk to him often about different things in this team? Absolutely. It only makes sense. There's a saying that will be prevalent throughout my tenure here and within our office. I want diversity of thought, but with unity of purpose. And that's what we're going to be led by. And so that starts with my relationship with Vivek.
I think that was a question that every Kings fan wanted an answer to. And ultimately, it's just words. I mean, we'll see how this goes over the next couple of years. But it was clear Scott Perry in that clip was like, no. I've been empowered to do this. He is the owner. He's going to have say. But ultimately, it's going to be me making these decisions.
Actions speak louder than words. I mean, that's where we're ultimately at. But it's like we've been saying, Deuce, when an owner, ultimately, it's their team. They own the team. They can do whatever the hell they want. It's how they run the team that people end up talking about. And it's how they empower others in their roles to make sure that they're doing their job, but also collaborating on things. Like he can have as much say as he wants, but how much say is Scott Perry ultimately going to have? And you're just hoping that when he does have to take the blame for anything that does go wrong, or even take the love for anything that goes right, it's just like, it's him that made the decisions.
I love the line at the end too. Diversity of thought, but with the unity of purpose.
Yeah. I love that, because that means different perspectives, everyone coming together and just gaining a whole bunch of knowledge.
But that's where it is. That's what we always talk about is like, I think the most successful organizations just have trust, and trust doesn't mean there's not conflict. Trust doesn't mean there's not disagreements. Trust doesn't mean that there's not moments of adversity and people aren't challenged to step up or else. But at the end of the day, trust is like, hey, we can have these conversations, then let's go do it. Like, I hired you for a reason. It's to help bring consistent winning, something that we have not seen in Sacramento.
Nope.
We have seen consistent winning in Sacramento since that stretch from 98 to 2006.
Yeah.
This last 3-year run, yeah, it's been nice. And I know like that was put out there like, hey, 40 plus wins in 3 straight years. Let's raise the bar a little bit too. You know, like it's like 40 plus wins. That's what we're doing. Like teams like hype up 50 plus win seasons, and that's not enough.
I know.
We can't just hype up 40 plus wins. The other thing he was talking about in that other clip was enhance what's here now and see where it goes. And that just tells me like, yeah, they're in a situation where it's like, all right, we kind of have some of these pieces. We're going to have to make some tweaks around it and see if we could take that step. And I think that's one element that might be frustrating for some fans to hear, because some are just like, all right, we need talent. Is the best way to do this is just to kind of tear it down and enhance it through a draft pick?
I think you can make tweaks. I think you can make tweaks and enhance what you do have. Like, ultimately, it's not just like a whole bunch of shit that's just put together on this roster. There's just pieces that don't elevate one another. You know what I mean? It's like, I think if you were to look at this roster, you're not going, oh my God, it's the worst in the NBA, but you're going, wow, there's holes and there's tweaks that need to be made. How can you make this player better? How can you make this player better as a defender? How can you like help him out as a defender? Tristy Rodriguez asked a question about like Keegan talking about in his post season presser about like, I don't want to have to be guarding a whole bunch of bigs all season long. It just takes a lot out of me. So like, how can Scott Perry not only add more of that length and strength and height for someone like Keegan, but also for someone like Domas to elevate his game and who he is as a player? So yeah, like there's definitely tweaks you can do to this roster, but they're probably going to be big tweaks.
Yeah, the other thing he had mentioned, that he wants players that have toughness, defense, want to work together on offense, share the ball.
Yep.
So you have a lot of tweaks to make because this team lacks some toughness. They have some.
Yeah.
They need some length and athleticism.
But sometimes it's crazy. Like, you know this, it could be just not just one player in this instance, but let's just say like it could be that one dog that you add that just brings a different spirit, a different energy to the team, that sets a standard that everyone else is going to follow. I mean, you look at Jimmy Butler doing that, being that tweak for the Golden State Warriors when everyone just thought that they were dead, and like ultimately them being a playoff team. And I'm not acting like that's all that the Kings just needed Jimmy Butler and everything's going to be better. No, but like that type of personality of one tweak, and then a big over here, how can you make that tweak? Or a young player over here where you see potential in him as a point guard with that tweak. Those things. Again, not a GM, just a broadcaster.
In closing, I knew he was going to win the press conference.
Yeah.
He's media savvy, like we talked about, right? ESPN, doing podcasts. He knows how to communicate effectively. I think that does still matter. Like I said at the top of this, Mike Brown, I think we all kind of left excited after his press conference where he talked about, honestly, similar things that Scott Perry talked about today. The difference is Scott Perry is the guy that is running this basketball operations, right? And so to have that at the top, that should be encouraging. It seems like, okay, he is talking about the things that Kings fans want addressed.
Absolutely.
And now winning the press conference is fine, but Kings fans have seen a lot of press conferences over the years. Players, coaches, executives, it's about, you're right, action, making moves, and then winning games.
Yep. Everyone's happy then.
It's not about winning headlines. It's about winning games. But you know what's crazy, man?
But
If you win games, you win headlines, dude.
Hey.
Shit, was that a bar or what?
Such a bar.
Such a bar, dude. Hey, let us know what you thought about what Scott Perry had to say. Are you optimistic? Are you wait and see? Are you like, okay, yeah, good luck, man? Let us know how you feel in the comments below. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe.
Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. The podcast